Welcome to the journey of an awakening spirit with your host, Kathleen Flanagan. The journey of an awakening spirit is about teaching you a variety of tools that you can use to step into your true self. It is about self-discovery, realizing you are not alone on your journey. We will open the phone lines, give readings, and talk about what our listeners want to know. So please welcome the host of the journey of an awakening spirit, Kathleen Flanagan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. I'm your host, Kathleen Flanagan, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network, and Felix is here. He has decided he hasn't been on camera for a little bit, so now he's made his appearance. So if you see a tail, it's because Felix is here. The purpose of the show is to help you realize you are not alone. You are in control of your life. It does not matter what your lot in life is or where you came from. We have all felt pain, suffering, hurt, abandonment, loneliness, hopelessness, etc. This show helps you to take those dark moments and turn them around to create a whole new you. We were taught to be a certain way, act a certain way, conform to society. Being socialized is not bad, but it puts constraints on us. The guests I bring on the show are telling you their story of where they came from, the obstacles they overcame, and where they are today. They are sharing the tools they use to recreate themselves in their life. Some of the guests are still in their process, beginning a new process, comfortable in their process, or even reinventing themselves. They are giving you tools that they use to gain insight into themselves, to take control of their life, and become the person they are today. On podcast.kathleenmflanagan.com is a list of the guests that I have had on my show with contact information. I am aware that you may resonate with one or several of them. My desire is that this becomes a community where you have access to the people you wish to align with and utilize the tools that they have, as well as the tools being offered on the KathleenMFlanagan.com site. AwakeningSpirit.com is an aromatherapy-based body care line that offers alternative healing remedies that uses natural and organic ingredients. We are offering a 40% discount by entering Brave TV into the coupon code. The products are guaranteed. If the product is not working, please contact me and we will reformulate the product specifically for you. Grandma'sNaturalRemedies.net is a CBD company that uses essential oils in every blend and either has broad spectrum or an isolate. Every product is tested and the lab results are on the website. We are offering a 20% discount by entering Brave TV in the coupon code. I start the show every week with sound from the tuning forks. I bring in love, happiness, and balance. This sets the tone for the show and brings out the best in both my guest and myself. So let's begin. We have with us today Nicole Kerr, and she is an award-winning health expert. Nicole is the co-author of Eating the Rainbow, Lifelong Nutritional Wellness Without Lies, Hype, or Calculus. She has appeared on CNN, PBS, CBS, ABC, the Food Channel, and a host of other TV and radio shows to share her unique perspective on wellness, lifestyle, and nutrition. For the past 30 years, Nicole has worked at all sectors of society, including in government, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nonprofit American Cancer Society, military, the United States Air Force Medical Operations, academia, University of Hawaii, healthcare institutions, hospitals, Adventist Health Castle and Queens Medical Center, corporate settings, CTIES LLC, and private consultations. Nicole's warm, engaging presentations have earned her a place in front of international audiences ranging from corporate food producers to health and medical associations. Throughout her career, she has focused on supporting people from every walk of life to make realistic, meaningful, happy choices for lifelong health and well-being. When she was 19 years old, was a 19-year-old cadet at the United States Air Force Academy, Nicole would be forced to learn how to live and love differently following a terrifying and transformative near-death experience. Her memory of the crash came back 20 years later, and it has taken Nicole almost another 2 decades to align her soul, spirit, mind, and body, providing healing in certainly a non-linear process. A disabled veteran, Nicole now maintains a private practice primarily using neuro-emotional technique targeting the often overlooked domains of emotional energy and spiritual well-being. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. I'm very grateful to be on your show today and look forward to our discussion together and hopefully help some of your audience.
Well, I'm really looking forward to our conversation as well, but let's start with your journey of becoming an awakening spirit.
Wow. I think I've always come into the world, even when I was a baby. I came in late. I was 3 weeks late. So there's part of me that really didn't want to come into this world because I think I knew what you said. It's going to be filled with pain and suffering. And I acknowledge that. My whole adulthood has been filled with a lot of that in me trying to transform myself on this journey after having two actually near-death experiences. And I will tell your audience, if you have an NDE, you come back transformed, whether you believe it or not. You are a different soul. You're more sensitive to energies, to toxins, to all kinds of things. But you have a whole different perspective because you have been to the other side and you have an idea of what the other side is about. And most of us did not want to come back, including myself, to Earth because we knew what was going to be in store on our journey in order for us to awaken our spirit and to move through the transformative layers and continue to move through them. I don't believe this is an ending journey here for us in our human form. We're going to keep learning until we pass on. So anybody that says they have it all figured out, I would tell you right now, that's a red flag. Don't listen to them. But yeah, my big part of my awakening journey started at age 19. I went to a military academy. It was the Congress had just authorized women to be admitted to the military academies, and the first class graduated in 80. So my class was 86. So I was one of the newbie women. And I have to tell you, the only reason I was there was I am a recovering people pleaser, and I was there to please my father. My father went to the academy. He was in the Marine Corps. And he wanted one of his 4 kids to do it. And I was desperate for his love and attention and affection. And I thought, if I could just get accepted and make it through the academy, he would love me and be so proud of me. And needless to say, when I got accepted, I was shocked because when I realized that now I had to go, what that meant. And I had done nothing during my high school years to prepare me to go to a military academy. I was a model. I ran a teen board. I did junior achievement. I took ballet. I mean, I did all these things that are non-military. Okay. I didn't like flying really that much, in closed spaces. So I was like Private Benjamin when I got out of there. I didn't know how to fire a pistol or more or less an M16, okay, or a 45. Boot camp was just a disaster for me. I was having such issues. They put me in remedial training. So it was difficult, and I knew when I was there that I was in the wrong place, and my soul was in the wrong place, and yet I couldn't quit. Because our family grew up, Kathleen, with this mantra, you do not fail and you do not quit. And when you start something, you finish it. And the humiliation, the embarrassment, the shame of quitting, I couldn't endure it. I just couldn't face it. And so I'd rather stay there and suffer through the quote hell I was being put through, especially as a first degree, or I mean, as a fourth degree. All of us get hazed, and there's just a lot of abuse. And for women, just add the sexual abuse component. I mean, I know it happens to men as well, but it was a very abusive environment. And I somehow got through it. And then my second year, I went back and I was like, I know I don't want to be here, but I just still couldn't quit. So we were at the beginning of the year, August 28th, which was a Sunday evening, at a kickoff squadron event, and alcohol was being served. And I got a ride home with a senior cadet. He was the last to leave. And needless to say, he had a different agenda. I didn't know this guy hardly at all. And I thought I was just getting a ride back from uh, the park where we were at to the academy. And he wanted to go have a couple more beers at a bar. He wanted to have a cigarette. He wanted to make out. And I was raised very sheltered. I come from the South, very religious, very conservative, but I had never even been on a date in high school. So here I'm at school with 4,000 guys, and my dad's rules were no smoking, no drinking, and no dating cadets, i.e. no fun. Okay. So I thought, for the first time in my life, I'm going to have some fun. I'm just going to go with it. And I had 2 beers, oh my gosh, and a cigarette at 19. Okay. I'm being radical here. And then when he wanted to make out, I was like, no, this is not what I want to do. I got to get back to the academy. We have a deadline on our time, and I don't want to get in trouble. And needless to say, when we pulled back on the road, we were in a 1965 Corvette convertible. The last thing I remembered was pulling back onto the road, and then I woke up in the ICU the next morning. And I'm going to show the people a picture
Oh my
of the
God.
car. That's the Corvette
Wow.
convertible. That's the passenger side. And
you survived that?
Yes. And the sheriff even said that is unsurvivable. Now, I survived it because there was an angel at the scene that revived me. I was actually pronounced dead at the scene. There was a group of bystanders that heard the crash, came out, and took a look at the driver and myself. They couldn't get any vitals on me. They thought I was dead. They went in and got a blanket, covered me up, called 911, and it was about 10 minutes before the first responders got there. So I was, quote, clinically dead. They estimate anywhere from 10 to 13 minutes. And when the EMTs got there, the one who is one of my many angels, John Hartling, he pulled the blanket back and he tried to get vitals on me, couldn't. So the last thing he did was a sternal knuckle press, which for healthcare providers is designed to elicit pain in the body. And the only thing that gave him an indication that I was still alive, Kathleen, was my right eye flinched and the pupil dilated. Out of my whole body, that was it. And there's a saying, our eyes are the window to our souls. Okay. And at that moment, my soul, which had left me earlier when I flew out of the window and windshield, I went butt up through the windshield, I later recalled, and I got stuck up in the air, so to speak. And at that moment, an angel came down and took my soul, and I went to the other side. And the rest of my body fell to earth because I knew when I was up there frozen, when I knew I was going to die. And I remember calling out to God, please help me. And when my soul came back in, I had my experience on the other side, but my soul came back in through that eye. And as soon as John was able to see that, he realized there was some part of me that was still alive. They got masked pants on me, pushed all the blood up to my heart, and then he was able to get a blood pressure of 60/0. Now, if you know anything about blood pressure, that is still life and death when you're at that level. 120/80 is normal. They immediately got me into the ambulance and did CPR on me for 20 minutes to the nearest community hospital. Okay. That is a long time to do CPR on somebody. So they were, when I got to the hospital, they were just hoping to stabilize me that night. And it took them all night to do that. And I know this now because A, my memory came back 20 years later, and B, John came to see me, the EMT, in the hospital about 10 weeks after it happened and told me what he remembered. And then, of course, I've got the hospital records, I've got the district attorney's reports, and I went back 25 years later and interviewed my doctors and my EMT and my primary care nurse. And it was just, it's all part of my book because I do believe in angels. They come in many forms. And these three happen to be in the human form because they were each quirky in their own way. And John was a badass Navy SEAL, and he was not going to let anybody tell them that I was dead. He was going to document it himself. And he later won the Phoenix Award in Colorado, which is for first responders who bring somebody who was pronounced clinically dead back to life. So I had multiple injuries, was in the hospital for 4 months, had a operation where they had to perform a colostomy, and I coded on the operating room table, code blue, which means my heart stopped. And so they couldn't get it going again. And they called the time of expiration, and they went and told my parents, who were praying in the chapel, that Nicole had died and it was time to make funeral arrangements. And then 2 minutes later, the surgical nurse runs into the chapel and said her heart just started going again. And so I tried multiple times to leave this planet after I came back, and my angel kept sending me back. And I say my angel because I now know the angel that came and got me. In the book, I call him Casper the Friendly Ghost. But right after the book was published, he revealed to me it was my grandfather on my paternal side. And ironically, the guy that was driving was an alcoholic. He had minimal damage. And my grandfather, when he was on earth, who died at age 58 from a massive heart attack, he was an alcoholic when he was on earth. Now, that doesn't carry over to the other side, what you did and who you were here. And he could see that I was in an abusive environment. He knew I didn't want to be here at the academy, and he knew I didn't know how to quit. And it's a very harsh way to get out of something, but I did. And so I spent the next 4 months literally just going up and down, 7 weeks in ICU, just massive injuries, lots of fractures, amputated left foot that they grafted together, broken wrist, broken pelvis, broken foot, and just a lot of infection that had set in from all the fiberglass, all the gravel, all the dirt, all the feces, all of that, and wound up with sepsis and gangrene. So I was a really sick girl for a really long time. And that was the physical part of it. And then when I got discharged, the doctor said to my mother, Nicole needs to see a psychologist and a psychiatrist. She has been through massive trauma and needs some help mentally. And my mother looked at him and said, Jesus is our psychologist. And I want people to know that that did not happen. Jesus never came down and sat on the sofa and said, Nicole, let's discuss your trauma here. And as a result of not getting mental help soon after the car crash, I wound up developing an eating disorder. And it's now, back then in the 80s, it was called compulsive overeating. Today, it's called binge eating disorder. And that's a direct result of the trauma I went through and my body inability to process it. And so it maladapts in a behavior. And that's why it's so important for people that have trauma to get mental health help. Those that are diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression, to not just push it away and think it's going to get better, because it didn't for me. I lived with that eating disorder for 20 years. And for any of you who have had eating disorders, let me tell you, it is very shame-based. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. You think that you're not going to binge the next day. You pray hard. You do all these things. And then your amygdala kicks in. It's a survival thing. You get triggered and you're back to binging. And then you hate yourself. So at the core of it is self-hate. And it took me such a long time to unwind from that part. And then there's the spiritual.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. This is The Journey of an Awakening Spirit. I'm your host, Kathleen Flanagan. We are here with Nicole Kerr, and she just told us one of the most amazing, horrific stories I have ever heard in my life, to go where she went to and just this process. So, Nicole, tell the audience, what were the steps that you took to get to where you are today? Because between an accident and not remembering for 20 years, now it makes sense of all the food that you took in and understanding that. Because when I read your profile, I'm like, well, I wonder what food has to do with her, with this death experience. And now it makes perfect sense because you couldn't process it back then. So yeah, please tell us a little bit more about that and, the unraveling of your remembering of your story of your accident.
Yeah, I did go into dietetics and nutrition to try to fix myself. And I didn't know anything else. I thought it really was a food issue. And if I just knew how to eat, then I would quit binging. And of course, that's not true at all with eating disorders. It's a mental illness. And I will tell you, the journey is still ongoing. I've had to uncover it in layers. I think if it all came back at one time, I would wind up in the psychiatric unit, to be honest with you. But when my memory came back, I was going to work at the Centers for Disease Control, and it was like any other day. I stopped at Starbucks to get my coffee, and then I all of a sudden remembered exactly how I was sitting in the car, which made me now understand all the ways that my body got cut. And before I could never understand, why I had cut my foot off and a 4th-degree laceration in between my anal and sphincter muscle. I mean, I just had some really weird cuts and I couldn't understand that. And I was real clear. I had one foot on the dashboard. The other foot was cross-legged. And by the way, don't ever sit like that in the car. Keep your feet on the ground there. And then my memory started unfolding. And that's called, when I went to my chiropractor, I did not go to work. He worked with me and he said, Nicole, these are repressed memories. And your body repressed them because you couldn't deal with the trauma. And that's your body's way to keep you protected and safe. And that is true for a lot of things. You'll find it happens very frequently with sexual abuse. Women or men don't remember for many, many years, and then something will trigger. And it's usually when your body feels safe enough and you have the support and the resources to get help with the trauma, because you cannot process all of this yourself. You do need someone else to help guide you through the process. And there's many different ways to deal with trauma now, PTSD, and one of the ones that has really worked for me is I started out in cognitive behavioral therapy, and then I have gone through almost every Eastern and Western modality known to man, everything from biofeedback to hypnosis to EMDR. NET worked with me, which is neuro-emotional technique. That's a mind-body stressor technique that uses acupressure points. And if we can just remember that our body remembers everything. There's a great book out there on trauma called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And I would suggest that your audience check that out if you're, more interested in trauma and repressed memories and things like that. But I have had to I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I have just gotten that 100% just 2 years ago. So that's 38 years into this journey. So working with the VA system, I tell you, I have sympathy and empathy for all the veterans out there because it is a frustrating and stressful process. And it adds, if you're already anxious and having PTSD, it adds to it. So once I got the diagnosis with PTSD, I'd been misdiagnosed for 38 years with depression and anxiety. I finally was able to get the right treatment, the right medication to help. But prior to that, I was misdiagnosed so many times and going down these paths that left me feeling hopeless and depressed and despairing. So I had to just keep trying the next thing. And I will tell you, I had to reconceptualize who God is in my life. I grew up Southern Baptist and Lutheran. So those are religions where God is presented as dual. God is really loving and protective and is going to be there for you on one hand, but there's rules to follow, right? Not only the 10 Commandments, but other rules. Every church adds their own set of rules. And if you're not living according to those rules or doctrines, then something bad is going to happen to you. You're labeled a sinner. You're labeled, you're going to hell. And I want to tell people right now, because people say, is there a hell? Hell, no. Okay, that's all I can say. There is not a hell. Hell is actually on earth. It is these situations like the war over in the Middle East right now, living in those kind of conditions. That is hell. Okay, if you are struggling and you are homeless and you have a chronic illness, I mean, there are so many different ways that you can be living in hell on this earth, meaning that your life just feels like it's complete shits, to be honest with you. So there is no hell on the other side. And when my memory came back, what I remembered, the only consistent thing I remembered was bright white lights. And Dr. Raymond Moody, who coined the term near-death experience, says that is the most common element or characteristic of all people who have near-death experiences. And for me, it really was this, I write in my book, I'm just going to read it. Rays of brilliant white light flooded me from all sides. Streams of light cocooned me, wrapping every part of my being in a chrysalis of soothing waves. Instead of the pain of impact, I felt rocked and held. But that was all I remembered about the accident for 19 years. I really did feel like I was an astronaut in outer space, just filled with awe and wonder. And my own experience, along with hundreds of thousands of other people who have had near-death experiences, is that death is absolute beauty, light, loving kindness, and this peace that passes all understanding. The colors on the other side they're more than in the Crayola color box. There's just such brilliance. The music, we don't have, when I was over there in soul form, when my angel took me over to the other side, what I remembered was I could hear two angels talking next to me. And it wasn't because I had ears. It's you hear because it's vibrational and it's telepathy. And, they weren't talking English, but somehow it gets translated back to English. And they were saying to please ask your angels for help. And I think this is something a lot of us forget to do. We all have at least one guardian angel that we are born with and given to watch over us. And some of us have more, and some of us have a team of angels that all have specific functions. But if you don't have a relationship with your angel or angels right now, it's very easy to do. You just ask them for help. And it can be as simple as a parking space. And I know people laugh at me when I say that, but if you ask for help, they will give you answers. Now, you have to remember, it may not be the answer that you think you need. It's going to be for your highest and greatest good, which we don't always know what it's going to look like. And I will also say the other message I was given on the other side was my angel told me that I was going to go back. And when he told me I was going back, I just was like, no, I could see my body in the ditch, my corpse. And I said, I do not want to get back in that body because I know there's going to be pain and suffering. And he said, your message is to tell people not to be afraid of death. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That is such a big topic. Death is such a big topic. And we are such a death denial society. We don't think it's going to happen to us. We don't prepare for it. It's the only life transition, Kathleen, that we don't prepare for. We prepare for marriage, the birth of our children, going off to college, all of these major events. But death, oh no, it's too morbid. I can't talk about it. And we have got to change the narrative around that and start talking about it and realizing it's part of life, and to make sure that we're prepared. Because I will tell you, I didn't think I was going to die at age 19 years old. And I'm sure the little kids at Sandy Hook didn't think they were going to die. And we never know when our last day on earth is going to be. And if we actually lived with that awareness, I believe we would be more present and we would live more meaningful, kinder, loving, transformative lives and live in a deeper way. We'd be more present.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything you said, I didn't have to have the death experience for everything you just said. I would go up into meditation and cry, please don't bring me back, because I don't want to come back, because I had a life of hell too. And I have walked around saying what you have said. There is no such thing as hell. We live in it here by what we think or how we act or how we respond to what's going on inside our environment. God loves us too much to even have a hell. So I never believed in hell because I always knew there wasn't a hell. I have a gaggle of angels around me. So, I just never forget. I went to a psychic once and her eyes are like this, she's like, oh my God. She says, how do you do this? And I said, oh, welcome to my world. I knew she was for real because she heard every single one of them and had to ask them to just like, one at a time, please, because they were all talking at once, because I apparently wasn't listening enough at the time. And I definitely ask my angels all the time for help, all the time. And I've done the parking space, because if you want to test it, that's the perfect thing to test is please get me a parking space here, and then watch it show up for you. I mean, yes, you think it's a joke, but that's how I started to understand that, angels really are there and they really do. And they're going to accommodate you, even if it is for a parking space. It's a perfect way to do it.
Yeah, and for me, you can even get to know their names, and
Oh, yeah.
I got a team of 5, and that reassures me I am never alone. And that is one of the 10 common lessons from NDEs, that if we could learn these lessons here on earth, we would be at a much higher vibration, that we would not be in the situation that we are in on this planet, with the divisiveness, with the fear, with the judgment of others based on their race, their sex, all of these things that are polarizing us as people and destroying Mother Earth and ourselves and our relationships. And like I said, one of the 10 is we are not alone. And when I say that, I mean, We have a whole spiritual realm that is available to us 24/7. We have to dial into it because we have something called free will. We get to make choices. So we get to choose whether to ask them for help. I will say they will intervene on your behalf. If it is a life and death situation like they did with me. So they do zoom in for things like that. So I want to tell the first one is we don't die. And that is the message in my new book, You Are Deathless, is that you don't need to be afraid of death because you don't die. When you die, we all have an energy body. Okay, we're made up of energy, that breath that keeps you alive, that life force, your chi. Okay, that energy body cracks open from the top down upon death, and your soul leaves. Okay, so that's what happened when I went through the windshield. My energy body cracked open, my soul left me, and the rest of the physical vessel of me dropped to the ground and splattered. And so that soul part carried on to the other side, had that conversation, and came back in through my eye. The life force in me came back again, and I started living again. So it's important that we understand that our soul has many lives. This is not our first rodeo. And part of the message is love. And we hear this from so many people and so many different sources, but it is so hard for us to really get on a personal level because we have a hard time truly loving ourselves. We judge ourselves more than we love ourselves. But love really is all that matters and the source of all that exists. And that is God. God on the other side is love. Pure, no strings attached love. And there's nowhere that God is not. You don't need an external anything to get to God because God is within you. You are an eternal spark of God.
Totally agree with everything that you said there. I totally agree with it. And I know for me to get through whatever my self-loathing was and how much I hated myself when I was younger, and a lot of it had to do with the abuses in my life that I was unaware of. And what I've told people, and I tell people all the time, is meditation. I mean, it was scary to do the first time I did meditation because I thought, oh God, I'm going to go inside and I'm going to see this really God ugly, horrible, monstrous person that I am. And that was the furthest from the truth. That was the furthest, because what I discovered once I could get that mind chatter to stop was that I am somebody bigger. I am somebody great. I do have a reason and a purpose for being on this earth. And I have been guided my whole life. That's why I had a gaggle of angels around me, was because I left my body. They pulled me out of my body when my mother came in and beat me as a child. And they just disclosed that to me not too long ago. So, I'm like, oh my God, this woman really was a monster. And I didn't come back until my 50s, okay? And I just reread the third part of my third book that's coming out this month. I just reread it so I could get my book editor to write the back cover for me. And I sat there and all I wanted to do was cry and wondered, how did I survive? And this is something that Spirit did. And I want the people to understand this, because what you're saying is, I know what you're saying. It was in 2012, I had finished the book in 2009, and I was going through all the editing process, and Spirit let me sit down, and I was sitting on my front porch. My eyes were wide open watching the movie. And this was the movie of me and the Destiny character in my book, who was me. And she was in the hospital. She was so full of holes. Her etheric body was full of holes. And I'm talking like holes like this. And they were working frantically to save me. And I'm sitting here watching. Are you saying I almost died? Did I really almost die? And I couldn't wrap around that. But when I read this book a week ago, I got it. I don't know how I survived, because I was taking so many punches on an etheric level, aside from a physical level, on an etheric level as well. And if I had probably one or two more holes in my etheric body, I would have been dead. It wouldn't have been a physical death, and nobody would have been explained the death. but it would have been there on an etheric level because of what I was dealing with. And I knew that I was protected. I knew that I was being taken care of, and I was fighting like hell. Oh my God, I was fighting like hell to save my life and didn't even know it until I finished that. And it brought so many tears because at the same time, my childhood was being revealed to me. And my mother died at the same time. And it was so much hopelessness. And I know that's what you felt too. There's no doubt in my mind that you felt that at times, because you can't go through a tragedy to that degree and be okay. You have to find your way back, and you have to find that core essence of who you are. And Nicole, I commend you for what you're doing and for what you're saying. This is why I bring this show to here, is because people need to hear this. People need to know we are more than what our governments and what society tells us that we are. We are bigger. We are grander. And yeah, we're going through hell right now, but it's about us waking up. And the message that you're bringing is so profound, because I can say I got mine through meditation, and I have a very challenging life, and I'll give you that. But so did you. And you went through a death crisis and had to wait 20 years to bring it back. And so the message that you're bringing, that's why I wanted you on this show, was because this is so profound. It's more than just what I went through in my story. There's something to be said when somebody dies like you did a couple of times and then comes back to share a story and a message. And you went through so much heartache and tragedy and pain and suffering, just not just on a physical level, but on a mental and an emotional and a spiritual level. I mean, you were in crisis for a very, very, very long time. And so when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about that and how can people get a hold of you. So we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is The Journey of an Awakening Spirit, and I'm Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we're here with Nicole Kerr. And I do not want this show to end in 20 minutes, but that's what it's going to be. But Nicole said, let's talk briefly, and I mean briefly is all we can have, is about soul loss, I think is what you said.
Yeah. But I just want to go back and just say something to what you said earlier. Here's the deal. When we are born, we all get spiritual amnesia. We have forgotten where we came from and who we are, which are these infinite, powerful, limitless, radiant, glorious, eternal, meaning everlasting, okay, beings. So that is who we are at our true core, at our soul. Now, something that came into my radar as I was healing and continue to heal was in 2019, I did some work with my soul with a shaman. And this is something that is maybe new to some of your listeners, but just like you have a flesh wound, a physical wound that has to heal, we have mental wounds that have to heal with medication and therapy or both. We also have soul wounds, and that is actually known as soul loss, when part of your soul fragments. And the reason that you may or may not be able to know if you have this is there's 3 symptoms. One, you don't want to be here. Now, I knew that from the beginning. I did not want to come back. Okay. And I knew my life was going to be filled with pain and suffering, not only from a physical, but I have ultra religious, addictive family that are steeped in the Bible, and I have my experience completely contradicts that belief system, but also on the emotional and mental. The second one is this low level consistent feeling that something is missing. And it's interesting to note that a lot of compulsive behaviors and addictions actually fall into this statement. And for me, I can clearly see now how my binge eating disorder falls into this like depression feeling, because I was so empty and I didn't believe in that concept of God that I was raised with anymore, but I didn't have the memory back yet to believe in this God that is just filled with light and love and energy. So that's the second. And then the third one is you can't get over it. Okay. And that's what I realized for me is I had labeled myself as sick. And I would use that card, the sick card, to get out of jail card free kind of thing. I would use a sick when I couldn't use my voice and didn't want to do something, instead of being able to say, no, I choose not to do this. Especially with my family, that was the only excuse they would accept is, Nicole's sick, she can't come. So I felt stuck with my chronic health conditions, and I was hyper vigilant about keeping myself safe. And that is an illusion that you think you can control your surroundings and keep yourself safe. But I didn't care. I was going to drive everywhere. I was going to try to be in control. And so I wish I would have known this earlier, Kathleen, that neglecting these hurt, fragmented parts of your soul and going on with life just leads to things like depression, and that it's a very real wound, and that you can use a shaman to help work with soul retrieval. You can use hypnotherapy. You can call back these soul parts yourself if you know how to do that. But it's a very powerful healing tool that works. And what we are dealing with here is that spiritual hidden realm. And I'm here to tell you it's a very real thing. And that was in 2019. And I noticed my healing started accelerating after all those fragmented parts were pulled back in, because I was wide open and disassociating that whole previous time.
I know all. Yeah. I'm textbook what you just said, textbook. And I think when I went out to Chicago in 2008 and I decided I wanted to be a better person, and I was on the mission because the Archangel Ariel had told me to go out there and write a book. And I had no idea what the book was about. I had all these different ideas of what the book was about, but as the journey unfolded, it was like, I have no idea. And then I told them it was too big and they were crazy. They had the wrong person. And yet here I did, I got the books out. And it's taken a long time to get the books out. But the thing is when I reread the book last week, where I was in 2008 and 2009 when I was writing this is where the world is today. So I was in a hell 20 years ahead of time. Okay. But that was why I was writing the book, because I'm a way shower to show people how to move out of that. That's why the show is here, is because I am here. This is what Spirit did. They made me break my hand last year so I could stop moving long enough to get the email. Instead of ignoring, come on to our show, I was like, well, I'm intrigued. I mean, the producer kept saying it's not a coincidence. It was like very much a coincidence. There's no coincidences in the world. He just figured this was natural. And it's like, no, this was divinely done. And it's for people like you and all my other guests that I have brought out on the show with me, that is why we're here today, doing what we're doing to help this planet ascend and come in back
Yes.
into remembrance of who they are.
Mhm.
So, Nicole, I know we only have about 5 minutes left, so tell us how we can get a hold of you.
Okay. Well, I will tell you, first of all, I closed my practice earlier this year. I just couldn't handle the stress. I'm just going to be honest with you. Putting out a book, it's now becoming a national, it is a national bestseller, but I just couldn't do the NET and working with clients one-on-one anymore. I'd been doing that for several years, and I was told that it's time to shut that phase of my life down, and that I was moving into the spiritual dimension of wellness when you look at the wellness wheel. But you can get my book here.
There we
Let's
go.
go this way.
There you go.
You are deathless. And I want you to look up there and you see that credential BTDT. Do you know what that is?
Been there, done that.
Yep. So I actually put it on my book and people are like, what is that? And I'm telling you, it's like, if you've been through an experience like we have, that trumps any degree that you get. Okay. I mean, that's the experience of life. But I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Instagram, and you can get me by going to my website, www.Nicole, Nicole, Kerr, Kerr.com. I will send you the first chapter for free. I want my book to be read as part of a book club. And the reason I want that, and their book club questions in here, is I want us to start this conversation about death. And I will tell you, if you have that as your book club book, you're going to get to know those members of your book club in an intimate way that you have never known them. And it's something it is the only shared experience that we're all going to have. It used to be death and taxes, and people found a way to get out of taxes, I think. So it's death. And so please promote it if you like it as a book club. Read it, talk about it. This is what I want to start, is the narrative to start changing. People start preparing for it and acting and knowing that where we're going is a better place and we have nothing to fear. And if any religion is telling you to fear it, then that is not of God.
Wow. Thank you, Nicole. I really do appreciate you being here today. And I'd love to have you back and go on to something a little bit different than just this, because we can branch off on so many different tangents on what you've been through.
Truly.
So I really do appreciate you coming on today. And I hope you have a happy holiday season.
I do too. And you, Kathleen, as well. And thank your producer and your audio guy. I appreciate you guys doing the work that you do as well.
All right. Well, thank you. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you found value here, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel at Kathleen M. Flanagan. And please feel free to forward it to your friends and family. My books, Dancing Souls, The Call, and The Dark Night of the Souls, are available on Amazon.com and the KathleenMFlanagan.com. Book 3, Awakened, is scheduled to be published this month. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's in the designer's phase right now. Check out KathleenMFlanagan.com for a list of services and products that are being offered there. The 3-minute de-stress meditation is absolutely free. There is absolutely no email required. Be sure to visit awakeningspirit.com and take advantage of the 40% discount at checkout. Enter Brave TV into the coupon code, and all the prices will adjust automatically. The same applies for grandmasnaturalremedies.net, where you will receive a 20% discount by entering Brave TV in the coupon code. Next week, we are going to have Corey Rosensky talking about what is a soul. I will see you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And from my heart to yours, I hope you have a fabulous week. Take care.
This has been the journey of an awakening spirit with your host, Kathleen Flanagan. Join Kathleen each week as she will inspire and empower all those who are drawn to her to live their highest vision in the context of love and joy. Right here Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.